Hi all, welcome everyone to IT Boon YouTube channel. My name is Praveen. I have 10 plus years of experience in IT. Today I am going to demonstrate Ab Initio administration demo class. As part of this demo session, I will be briefly explaining what are the major and important tools of Ab Initio, starting from their purpose, features, installations, configurations and regular day-to-day Ab Initio support activities. With that note, let's quickly jump into our today's agenda. Okay, this is the agenda for today's class. I will be covering all these steps one by one, starting with data warehouse fundamentals, ETL tools, introduction to Ab Initio, and the core tools of Ab Initio GDE, cooperating system, Ab Initio EME, which is nothing but technical repository, control center, Expressit, and Ab Initio key server. Along with that, I will also cover one topic which is Ab Initio code migration process. Okay, moving on to next slide. Data warehouse fundamentals. The term data warehouse was first introduced by Bill Inmon in 1990. According to Inmon, a data warehouse is a subject-oriented, integrated, time-variant, and non-volatile collection of data in support of management's decision. A data warehouse provides us generalized and consolidated data in multi-dimensional view. Along with generalized and consolidated view of data, a data warehouse also provides us online analytical processing capabilities, which are nothing but OLAP in shorter form, which can help us in interactive, effective analysis of data in a multi-dimensional space. Okay, the below picture will explain all these four concepts in a detailed way. Starting with subject oriented, it provides information around subject rather than any applications. These subjects can be products, customers, suppliers, sales, revenue, or maybe any other subject. Okay, moving on to next feature of data warehouse, which is integrated. A data warehouse is constructed by integrating data from heterogeneous sources such as relational databases, flat files, CRM, customer relationship management data, POS, point of sales data, etc. This integration enhances the effective analysis of the data in the organization. The next feature is time variant. The data collected in a data warehouse is identified with a particular time period. The data in a data warehouse provides information from the historical point of view. Okay. The next feature is non-volatile. The data which is stored in the data warehouse is a non-volatile. That means it cannot be erased. We can keep adding data to it. A data warehouse is kept separate from the operational database, and therefore frequent changes in operational database is not reflected in the data warehouse. So what is the importance of data warehouse? Data warehouse is must for running an enterprise for any size to make intelligent decisions. Data warehouse enables the competitive advantage. Data warehousing is essentially tells about data and its relationships, and it is a foundation for business intelligence (BI). It clearly draws the distinction between data and information. With data stored in a data warehouse can be used in any of the following domains. So the data which was stored in the data warehouse, it can be used in various ways. Below are some of the examples given. One is decision making. By using the data which is stored in the data warehouse, we can query the data warehouse with different types of queries and take the decision based on the reports provided by reports generated. Okay, and customer analysis. We can predict the customer customer behavior by analyzing the customer data. So that is possible only with the data warehouse, because we will have the consolidated data stored in a data warehouse, and we will have all the data related to customer across the organization. And operational analysis. So we will be able to get the operational analysis by applying the required set of queries on the data warehouse. And we will have the organizational information available at one place. So this point says we will have the organizational information. So suppose if you have a company that will have huge number of departments. For each department there will be a separate application and database. All those data will be pulled into one place, which is nothing but data warehouse. From then we can query the required information. So that is nothing but so the data is very powerful. So that information will be available at one place. That is nothing but organization information available, and it will have a consistent data. So the data which is stored in data warehouse, which will be cleansed, transformed, and scrutinized, then only it will be stored in a data warehouse. So the data which is there in data warehouse, it is very clean and consistent data. Optimizing production strategies. By using the data, we can optimize the production strategies as well in a real time and our upcoming changes. Okay, moving on to next slide. Data warehouse architecture. So this is the typical diagram of a data warehouse architecture. It has 5 stages. One is data source, data staging area, warehouse, data marts, and the final end users. So data source are nothing but operational systems, or flat files, or POS systems, or CRM related data, or any other data which is related for an organization. So all these data sources will be in a different places across the world, and it will be segregated into multiple applications and domains. Okay, these data will be pulled into a staging area, which is nothing but ETL space. So with ETL, so from here onwards, our ab initio will be pristine. Okay, so with ab initio, we will clean the data according to our requirement based on the business, and then we'll transform this data and load it into data warehouse. From data warehouse, again we can have a data marts. Data marts are nothing but specific to one department. So for purchasing, we can have a separate data mart. For sales, we can have a separate data mart. Like that, we can have a number of data marts created from a data warehouse, which will have the data related to one particular department in the organization. That will give the consolidated data for any particular department. So the consumers are the end users, like analytical users. For reporting purpose, they will be querying the data marts, and some teams they query it directly from the data warehouse, etc. And data mining also happens based on the data stored on data warehouse and data marts. And recently trending technology, data science. Data scientists also query the data from data warehouse or data lake, and they predict the future trends of business. Okay, this is the architecture of data warehouse. Moving on to next slide. ETL tools and their competitors. So ETL is nothing but extract, transform, and load. So we will be extracting the data from various sources, clean the data, that step is called transform, and load it into the target database, which is nothing but data warehouse or data lake or data mart, which is a kind of database again. Okay, for ETL we have n number of tools available in market. So among those tools, these are the very popular and widely used tools right now in the market. So ab initio, starting with ab initio, Informatica, Talend, which is open source tool, which is currently trending in the market, SAP BODS, IBM DataStage, and Microsoft SSIS. These are the widely used tools as I am aware. There may be other tools as well which are used by different companies. Okay, Moving on to the next slide. Introduction to ab initio. Okay, what is ab initio? Ab initio is a Latin phrase that means ab initio is a Latin term meaning from the beginning and is derived from the Latin ab, which means from, plus initio, that means starting. From the scratch, that means from the beginning. Okay, ab initio is a general purpose data processing platform for enterprise class mission critical applications such as data warehousing and data movement, which is nothing but ETL, and data transformation and analytics. Ab initio originally developed as a ETL tool for parallel processing for batch applications. Now a completely a graphical tool, and it's completely ab initio means data solution, and nowadays the ab initio evolved. The ab initio products provide a platform for data processing applications. These applications perform functions relating to data analysis, batch processing, continuous processing, data manipulation, GUI based parallel processing, which is commonly used to extract, transform and load ETL data. Ab initio supports integration of data sources and programs and provides complete metadata management across the enterprise. Ab initio is a proven ETL solution in the industry. So ab initio is a complete solution for any data related activities such as data transformation, data movement, and data analytics and metadata management and business rules management. All this can be achieved through ab initio. So it's a completely, rather than ETL, it's a completely a solution in the data space. So ab initio has a lot many features which I did not cover here. So for basic understanding, I am just covering as part of this course, but it has many more features. That's why it's more successful in the market. So ab initio is rich in performance and handling the huge amount of data within a shorter period of time with good performance, which no other ETL tool can beat ab initio in the performance. That's why ab initio is still used by many big MNCs, and it's still continue to grow and adapt to the latest trending. Okay, moving on to next slide. By using ab initio, we can achieve multiple solutions. We can use ab initio in various systems. Ab initio software is used in a wide variety of systems, which are some of the examples given in this pictorial diagram. Starting with data warehouse, data lake, and ETL space, and real-time data processing, which are nothing but continuous flows, and it can be integrated with WebSphere, EMQ, JMS, and big data technologies called big data real-time queues like Spark, etc. And CRM, customer relationship management tools called Salesforce, and maybe any other tool which are there in the CRM domain. And data mining, analytical processing, clickstream analysis, etc. Okay, moving on to next slide. Architecture of ab initio. This is the typical architecture of ab initio. So on top of our actual operating system, ab initio co-operating system will be installed on top of that. So a co-operating system is the backbone of ab initio. All the ab initio tools and frameworks are built based on this co-operating system. It has one single engine for any tool which ab initio builds. Okay. So on top of a co-operating system, we will be having a ab initio metadata repository, which is a technical repository. Okay, and then we will have a graphical development environment, which is the main tool from ab initio to develop the code, which is nothing but graphs. Okay, with GD we will have a rich library of components. So each component is a predefined set of code. It's just a drag and drop by using these graphical by GD. So we can have the user-defined components created as well by using GDE and cooperating system, and we can also use integrate with third-party components. On top of this, we will have the applications, other applications like control center, query it, data quality environment, metadata hub, authorization gateway, etc. All these comes under applications part. Okay, these are all integrated with Ab Initio's cooperating system, which is the core and foundation of Ab Initio software that will be installed on our Unix or Linux operating systems. Okay, moving on to next slide. GDE, Graphical Development Environment, and the full form of GDE. GDE is a general purpose graphical development application for developers, which is used for designing and running Ab Initio code. GDE works in client-server model. GDE is used to create applications by dragging and dropping components from the Ab Initio GDE library onto the canvas, which is nothing but the working area. By connecting these components, we can create the executable flowcharts. These diagrams are called graphs. So there are different kinds of components available in GDE. By just dropping them into working area, we can create the Ab Initio graphs with nothing but Ab Initio code. So Ab Initio GDE is a user-friendly front-end for designing Ab Initio ETL graphs and plans. So Ab Initio GDE has a components are predefined, which are nothing but preset of programs that can be used to develop applications. So GDE has ability to run, debug Ab Initio jobs and trace execution log from the GDE itself. It's a front-end tool for users. Okay, these components are displayed in the component library. So in GDE we have various options. On the right hand side, if you have already worked in Ab Initio GDE, you will see all these component library available. You can just search and use them in the canvas area. The components can be dragged and dropped onto the GDE to develop application, which is such a simple tool, and it made so easy. The development is made so easy by GDE. So we just drag and drop the components, and just with few modifications you can develop the Ab Initio code. Okay. GDE Ab Initio graph compilation process results in generation of a Unix shell script, which may be portable and can run heterogeneously across a huge variety of operating systems and hardware platforms. The code which we develop through GDE, once we save it on the server, it will be converted into a shell script, so that shell script can be run on that server, and if required it can be copied to any other server and run from there. It's just a portable code which will be developing through GDE. Okay, these are some of the functionalities of GDE, which I need to give a glimpse of it for the administrators who are going to learn Ab Initio, so that they will have a clear idea on complete functionalities of GDE. Moving on to next slide. As an administrator, what are the regular day-to-day activities you will have to handle? Okay, so these are some of the tasks which I have listed here that any typical Ab Initio administrator will be doing in a day-to-day life. Okay, first he should have a clear understanding on what is GDE, how GDE works. So, and I can walk through you for various options available on GDE for better understanding. GDE installation on how do we do the installation of GDE on Windows, Citrix and AWS platforms, and even on any other cloud service based on the requirement. Okay, and what are the various connection settings we need to do in order to work with the Ab Initio GDE. So those will be taking a look. Okay, and help library configuration for GDE. So we can integrate the Ab Initio help library for the GDE. So for that we need to do some certain configurations in the server side. So those settings, how do we do? So that topic will be covered as part of this. Okay, and component library walkthrough. What are the categories of components available in GDE? and what is the purpose of each component in a brief, in a simple fashion. I can explain that. Okay. And project check-in and checkout process. What is the project check-in and checkout process will be covered. Okay. Accessing sandbox. How do we access the sandbox from the server? Through GDE. And how do we connect to key server from GDE to validate the user credentials? So those settings will be addressed. And GDE version compatibility test and regular GDE issues. Okay, these topics will be covered as part of GDE administration. Okay, moving on to next slide. Co-operating system. Ab initio co-operating system is the ab initio core software, and which is also foundation for ab initio. A co-operating system unites a network of computing resources such as CPUs, storage, disks, programs, and datasets into a production quality data processing system. The cooperating system provides a distributed model for process execution, file management process monitoring, checkpointing, and debugging. You can interact with cooperating system through its graphical user interface, which is nothing but GDE, which we have discussed about in the previous slide. Cooperating system is a software provided by ab initio, which operates on top of the actual operating system and is a core and base for all ab initio tools and processes. So while we are talking about architecture, I have explained it. So cooperating system is a foundation for all the solutions developed by ab initio, and it is a core for ab initio. It's a single engine which can be scalable for all the functionalities and solutions available in the ab initio solution software. Okay, the ab initio cooperating system provides the following features. It will manage and run ab initio graphs and control the ETL processes on the server. It provides ab initio extensions to the operating system, ETL processes, monitoring and debugging, metadata management and interaction with the EMA. Okay, these are some of the main functionalities of cooperating system. So, as part of cooperating system administrative tasks, starting with the software download request, how do we set up the ab initio user IDs and groups, working on file storage needs and mount points, cooperating system installation, how do we install the cooperating system, requesting and installing the ab initio server keys to activate the ab initio server software and the server software, configuration of ab initio RC, AppHub RC, and any other configurations required in order to work with ab initio. Creation of ab initio bridge and reporter. How do we create a bridge and reporter in order to? Okay, so that topic also will be covered as part of this course. Configuring the connections between the servers. Suppose if you want to build a cluster of ab initio cluster, you will have to do certain configurations in order to make the successful implementation of ab initio. For that, what is the procedure and tasks we need to take as our main. So, okay. And how do we create the multi-file system, and why it is so important for parallel. So ab initio is good in parallelism, right? So in order to achieve that on the server, we should have a multi-file system created on the cluster so that we can achieve the parallelism. And operating system kernel tunings. So ab initio recommends to do some fine tunings on the OS kernel level in order to improve the performance of cooperating system and ab initio tools. So what are those kernel tunings? I will be explaining. And how do we set up the user profile and .ab initio RC profile for each and every user and application IDs? What are the entries which we need to add it to .profile and .ab initio RC in order to work with ab initio? That topic will be covered in a detailed way. And configuring high availability clusters for failover support. Suppose we are having a production environment which is very critical for end users. In order to maintain that server always available. We need to build, we need to do certain configurations and maybe build a separate cluster and balance the load between both the clusters, etc. Activities will be covered under this topic. Configuring and running the workload manager as required. Suppose you are in a shared environment, you wanted to allocate a certain amount of resources to Ab Initio and certain amount of resources to other purpose. In that case, Ab Initio provides a solution called workload manager. So I will be explaining how to configure the workload manager and how to utilize that utility exactly. Okay, and disaster recovery environment. So in case of any disaster, natural disaster or any during the long outages, we can use this environment. For that, we need to configure the DR environment for Ab Initio. Those steps will be explained in a clear manner. Okay, moving on to next slide. Technical repository, which is also known as a EM Enterprise Meta Environment, which is a version control software from Ab Initio. It stores applications and all of their associated information. So metadata is nothing but data about data, and it is very critical for understanding and driving the business. Hence, storing and using metadata is important for any organization. So Ab Initio also stores two types of metadata. One is technical metadata and business metadata in EME. What is technical metadata? Application related business rules, record formats, and execution statistics. This information will be categorized as a technical metadata and business metadata. User defined documentation of job functions, roles, and responsibilities. This information will be categorized as a business metadata. Both these information can be stored in technical EME and easily accessible for any developers and operations teams. Okay, moving on to next slide. So technical repository is an integrated environment. The following diagram shows how it fits into the high-level architecture of Ab Initio. So EME can be integrated with graphical development environment, which is nothing but the main front-end development tool for all the Ab Initio users. So they will be accessing all the projects and their code from the enterprise meta technical repository, and EME web interface to technical metadata. EME is nothing but it is running on the server, which can be accessible through the Ab Initio EME web interface, which is nothing but TRW technical repository web interface. Okay, so it can be integrated with web interface as well. And for data lineage harvesting, so we can import the data lineage from metadata hub by connecting to EME repository. Okay, it can also act as a data source for the third-party tools and third-party metadata destination as well. So if you don't use metadata hub, which is the Ab Initio solution, we can use this metadata by integrating with any other third-party metadata management tools. And EME is integrated with on top of Ab Initio cooperating system. So we should have a cooperating system in order to work with the EME. It's tightly integrated with cooperating system. Moving on to next slide. As a technical repository administrator, you will be carrying out below tasks. Okay, so as an administrator, you should know how to create a EME. On top of that, how to create a branch. So branches are again part of EME. We can have a number of branches created for individual teams for the parallel development and production fixes. And how to create a public and private projects. There are different types of projects we can create on top of EME. One is public, private, and environment and common projects. So briefly, they are categorized as public, private, and environment projects. So how do we create these projects will be explained in a detailed way. And how do we set up the environment project and how do we create it? though. And how to access EME from GD. How do we access EME from GD? What are the settings required? And check-in and check-out process. So EME is a repository. How do we check in? Check in the sense, how do we save the code in repository? How do we copy the code from a repository to our local file system? That is the checkout process. How do we handle it? What are the required commands? What is the process? So all those details will be explained in a clear fashion. Okay. And sandbox creation. How do we create a sandbox? Sandbox is nothing but a local copy of EME code. So that how do we create a sandbox and how do we tag a sandbox to a project, etc. details will be covered. EME user and group management. So by using EME, we can manage the user authentication and authorization for the ab initio. Okay. And how do we create a tag for objects and the projects, and how and code migration process. So EME. So what I mean to say is tag creation process. How to create a tag and code migration process by using EME. EME backup and health checks. As an administrator, we are responsible to take regular backups and maintain the health of the EME. Okay, EME migration and upgrades. So during a cluster migration, we need to migrate EME from one server to other server. So that is also a administrator task. And how do we upgrade from one version to other version? What are the steps required? Okay. And various other features of EME, like EME triggers and data lineage from EME. How do we modify the projects? How do we remove the projects? Etc. tasks will be handled by ab initio administrators. All those topics will be covered as part of this course. And ab initio control center. So ab initio control center is a browser based software that centralizes the monitoring, configuration and control of all the ab initio assets and applications in a production or operational environment. Control center monitors CPU, memory and file system usage of co-op run and data nodes, cooperating system run nodes and data nodes. We can configure and monitor and control ab initio products and services by using control center. By using control center, we can also schedule jobs, monitor and control ab initio graphs and conduct it plan jobs. This is a centralized location to monitor and control the ab initio jobs and monitor the server performance related details. And we can also configure third-party tools as well if required, which are integrated with ab initio. Okay, as an administrator, we will be doing the below activities like control center installation and configuration, operational data store creation for control center, which is nothing but a database creation. It may be any kind of database like APDB, PostgreSQL, or any other database which organization decided to use. And the middleware application servers. How do we install and configure the Tomcat server or AB application server or WebLogic or WebSphere application server? Okay, so these topics also will be covered as part of this course. And how do we do the control center installation, and how do we generate the WAR file, and how do we deploy it on top of the application server, and access management. So since control center is a browser based tool, we need to allow certain users and restrict certain users. So how do we manage those access for users for the control center? Okay, and next topic is integration with LDAP or SSO or Active Directory for authentication and authorization. So for user access management, as part of user access management, we can integrate control center with various authentication and authorization tools, which are nothing but LDAP, SSO, Active Directory, or maybe any other tool which is used by a company. Okay. And how do we configure the bridge and reporter from the control center? Okay. In order to function the control center, since it's a web browser based tool, we need to configure the bridge to integrate it with the co-operating system and start the reporter, which can report the job related information to control center. Okay, and the next topic is system and application creation from the control center, and create a runtime environment where jobs can run, on which server it can run, and which version of operating system it can run. All these details will be covered. Okay, how do we create a sample job? Means job definition, job group in the from the control center. Suppose if you are using any other tool like AutoSys or Control M or maybe any other scheduling tool, then we don't need to worry about it. Suppose if you use control center to schedule the jobs, how do we create the job from control center? Can we have a job groups created for the easy segregation of jobs, etc. will be covered here. And notification setup for job monitoring. We can have the notification email notification setup from the control center for any job failures or success, and maybe we can have the warning alerts set up as well. Various other configurations which are required for control center administration. Okay, moving on to next slide. Expressit. Expressit helps organizations to improve the way they develop business applications by putting the control of application features directly in the hands of subject matter experts. So Expressit is a browser-based tool from Ab Initio. It will help organization to improve the way the business users develop their applications. Okay. So those developers may be the experts, which include business and data analysts, are the people best prepared to decide on an application configuration and respond with timely updates when conditions change or when additional use case must be configured. In that case, so early days people used to use Excel sheets in order to manage the business applications. So Ab Initio provided a solution which is browser based product where it made a very simple development applications. So it's just a platform for business users, okay, who are not technically well, so they can still use Ab Initio and perform their Ab Initio business rules editing and application configurations created and based on the templates. So as part of Expressit administration, so we should understand the installation of Expressit software, installation of middleware applications like Tomcat, ABApp, Nginx, or any other application server which we decided to use. Okay, and how do we do the cluster deployment of Expressit or Control Center or any other browser-based Ab Initio software, and integration with AG and LDAP for authentication and authorization. So AG is the tool provided by Ab Initio, which is nothing but authorization gateway. By using this tool, we can integrate all the Ab Initio browser-based tools like Expressit, Control Center, Metadata Hub, Queryit, and TRW. All these tools can be integrated with authorization gateway for authentication and authorization for users. So this can be integrated with LDAP, which is nothing but your Active Directory in the organization where all the user IDs will be created. With that, we can integrate and we can enable the enterprise-wide authentication mechanism. Okay, and how do we generate the WAR file and how do we deploy it on the middleware server? Next topic is AppConf root directory setup. In order to work with Expressit as administrator, we need to make certain configurations when we install it. So what are the required set of configurations we need to make as admin on the server in order to make the Expressit function from the controls, means from the browser. Okay. The next topic is role-based user access management. Expressit has a feature called role-based user access management. We can have the certain level of authentication for each user segregated, and those users have limited permissions. So it is a role-based authentication mechanism that can be achieved in the Expressit. So there are certain settings we need to make and configurations required while installation. So those, how do we make those role-based access management in Expressit? That will be explained in a detailed way. Okay. and project workspace setup. So as you know, Expressit is a browser-based software. In order to allow various project teams to work on Expressit from the single interface, so we have a concept called workspace. For each project, we can create one workspace and allow the users to access it from the Expressit. So that required setup will be covered as part of this topic. Moving on to next slide. Ab initio key server administration. Ab initio provides various types of software activation license keys to use their products. There are two types of ab initio server keys. One is user license keys and server license keys. User license keys is nothing but a user key permits someone to use one or more ab initio client applications or more than one workstation or server Citrix server. A user key is based on the user's login credentials, and the next category is server license keys. A server key activates ab initio server software such as the cooperating system on a particular node. So as a key server administrator, you will be doing the below tasks: how to install key server, how to request user license keys, configuration of key server, how to install user key bundle from the control center, how to install the user key bundle from the command line, how to configure BIOS based license keys and the necessity. So why do we need a BIOS keys? This is one of the most important topic for the administrator. Monitoring the key expiry dates. So there are a number of license types ab initio provides to their clients. So based on those agreements, they will have the license expiry dates. So if license expires, so ab initio jobs start failing. So in order to avoid that, we should have a monitoring setup for the end dates. Based on that, we can request for the replacement keys or maybe other alternatives. Okay. And key server high availability configuration. So since every user will be authenticated through key server, we need to have it available always so that we can avoid the impact on the users. So how do we make the high available configuration for key server? Various key server connectivity issues. When you work with ab initio, there may be various key server issues on day-to-day you face from the users. That how do we handle it, and how can we avoid those issues reoccur again? So those strategies will be discussed. Okay, moving on to next slide. Ab initio code migration. So ab initio code migration is nothing but after the development of code in dev server, code needs to be migrated to higher environments for testing and pre-production testing and running in the pre-prod environment, and move it to the production environment for the actual production runs and DR environments as well, if you have it. So as part of code migration, as the administrator, we will be helping the development teams to create the tags, create the save files, and copy it to the target server and load it into the EME and check out to the target sandbox. All these process will be the required commands to create a tag, save file, and copy to the target server, load it into EME and all will be explained in a detailed fashion. So we can also automate these regular tasks by using various scripts and DevOps tools. So that also will be covered as part of this course in a step-by-step fashion. Okay. That's all I wanted to cover in this demo session. Thank you for watching this video. And the leftover or any other topics leftover in my previous demo session will be covered in a next video. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and share if you like this video. If you are planning to learn ab initio administration, please contact me and